Legacy.
Hey, welcome, Groove Believers. Your old buddy Dave back again with my continuing saga of interviewing authors. And today I got a really great guest right there to will probably end up being the right of your screen is Mr. W.H. Billy Chizmar. We're going to call you Billy, right? We decided?
Yeah. I was always Billy growing up. My grandpa was Bill, so when I came time to like pick a name to write under, I thought Billy would look a little funny on the cover. So I'm not Bill, and I've never been Will or William. Um, so I thought the initials looked kind of cool, and they made me probably seem older than I was. So
Yeah, and they do. If I would ever write anything, I'd probably go with D.P. Dreher instead of Dave. So
I like that.
I think it was
DP's
a smart
nice.
move. I think it was a smart move on your part for sure.
I
So
like DP. That's like director of photography.
no, there you
That
go. I didn't even think
that
of that. There
immediately
you
just
go.
makes me think of that. So that's you know that
Well,
that
you
would
see,
be that would be
WH,
cool.
you could be writer of horror, Chismar.
Yeah.
WH, there you go. It works, right? So you have got this is an exciting time for you, and it's also going to end up being an exciting time for all horror literature fans everywhere because you've got your debut novel coming out. Now, again, this gets a little convoluted because you've actually been on the bestsellers list before, but you co-authored a book with your father, Richard Chizmar. That was Widow's Point, and that was last fall. Which
Yep.
we may get to that if we don't exceed our time here too much. But this is your first standalone release, all by yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I yeah, I we wrote Widow's Point together, my dad and I, Richard, and then that was its own saga, that had many different drafts and iterations, and then them was my first solo long project. I started it when I was a junior in college, right after it was the summer of 2020. And that spring, I remember I was sitting in early American women writers was the class. And all of a sudden, like you just heard half the class like start to like cry. And you were, looking around, what's going on? And then I checked my phone and I saw the email that was like, because of COVID, because of the pandemic, this was in March of 2020. We're going to be sending everybody home for the rest of the semester. We're going to do the rest of the school online. Um, and, that was on a Thursday. We'd be moved out by Monday. So it was pretty crazy turnaround. And then I finished out the semester right here, in my dad's home office. And he's got all these sweet books, paperback racks, like you see in old used bookstores. And I'd just be sitting here doing my online schoolwork in Zoom class, writing essays on what was it that semester? I did write a lot on Kate Chopin that semester, who I love, one of my favorite early American women authors. The Awakening is just so good. But anyway, I'm just sitting in his office with all these great books, reading all these great books, and loving it, but also just wanting to write something myself. So I ended up taking my laptop outside every day after class was done and just started writing. Um, and I knew I wanted a an end of the world monster story. Just because that's some of my favorite stories like that are like The Mist and Bird Box, which were two huge inspirations. Um, just always a subgenre that has had a really special place in my heart, and I wanted to put my own twist on it. So I started that in the summer of 2020, and then in summer of 2023, I think it was, I published it online on my Patreon page in little 10,000 word serialized chunks over like half a year. Um, and had a great reception to my little but really devoted audience on Patreon. And that's where actually Brian Freeman with Levidian Publications, which is a really great small press that does these wonderful, super high quality limited editions. That's where he read it, and he was like, "Hey man, I'll get you an editor, and we can turn this into a real book, into a special edition." Um, so it's kind of weird that it had the Levidian edition first, um, but then that came out in 2024, and fast forward 2 years, Gallery read the book. My editor Ed Schlesinger really liked it, but he said, "There's just a few ideas I've got,"
Always, right?
as any good editor should.
Yeah.
And so the version that's coming out in August 11th is definitely my favorite version so far. Just because it's got I'm the type of guy who any chance you give me to make changes or tweaks, I'm going to take it. So especially
So,
if you sorry, go ahead.
no, no. Well, it just popped in my head. So, without giving anything away, no spoilers or anything, how different would you say, like, when you go all the way back to the little serialized version to this version that's coming out on the 11th? Has it changed radically, do you feel?
I wouldn't say radically, because what makes me so happy about the changes is that the heart is very much still the same, if not like even enunciated a little bit in some places. I think the jump from my online serialized version to the Levidian version was just huge in terms of quality, because I had a great editor on that as well, Robert Mindy. And it was the online version. Nobody but me and my dad had really edited, uh, so it was great to get not only Robert's eyes but Brian Freeman's eyes on it and their opinion and feedback, um, and and to help develop the story. And then I also both times I added probably at least 10,000 words, just because I also cut a lot of words. But I add so much always, just because especially if it's a manuscript that's getting to sit for a year in between iterations. Was so much I came up with in that spare time. And I was like, I got to add at least half of these. Um, so I would say the jump from the online version to the Levidian version is definitely bigger than from Levidian to Gallery, um, in terms of content. But well, I don't even know if that's true, because there's some scenes that with Ed Schlesinger's help, and he's like the best editor in New York. So when he gives me advice, I'm like, aye, Captain, I'm there.
Don't even
Um,
question it, huh? You just do it.
Yeah, pretty much. There was one, the names, which we can maybe get to, the main character's name. But yeah, other than that, I was like, yeah, I will. Everything he said, I was just like, that's brilliant. I just got to figure out how to get it done,
Right.
and how to emulate it and how to evoke it, whatever his suggestion was. And there were some scenes that came out of that just I totally reworked. Then now there's some of my favorite scenes in the book. Towards the end, particularly when, speaking of which, when the name does come into play, um, and without giving away too much, but
Yeah, I was going to say, I was say, no spoilers. Don't spoil it
yeah.
just for anybody.
But yeah,
Makes
all
it
that to
hard, doesn't it?
say, it does, it is hard. All that to say though, there's just so much that got added every time that I I'm I'm just really in love with different scenes and different turns of phrases. In different darlings, I had to cut at times too, which I think makes reading the old versions still a lot of fun. Especially, I mean, not the online version as much as the Levidian version, because the Levidian version too has like some of my just like weirder, um more like rambly poetic paragraphs that a real big publisher, a mainstream publisher, was like, yeah, I don't, this is like a little aimless.
Don't really need all that word salad, huh? Let's
Yeah,
keep it more to the point. well,
exactly.
and I can see why that would be because, and again, you mentioned, kind of your, the things you were thinking of, the mist and stuff, and there's definitely you can definitely feel that in this, 100%. Also, War of the Worlds. I felt a real War of the Worlds vibe because this has a more sci-fi twist to it, uh, um, which is great. And the creatures, it's very much a creature feature type of story, but
Absolutely.
the creatures aren't 100% organic. There is a mechanical tilt to them, uh, all of which is just completely fascinating. But the biggest thing that I found was fascinating, and I think the biggest difference between the stories we're comparing it to and your story is that a lot of those stories are a group of people trying to deal with this intense situation, where we're basically seeing it through one set of eyes for the most part.
Hmm.
I don't think there's a line of dialogue. I looked at one point in time. I can't remember what page number it was, but there's not a line of dialogue in this book till about the third point.
Yeah.
It's all narrative and descriptive, and which I had never experienced before. But it was paramount. It is paramount to the story because that's what this is about. This guy emerges from the rubble of what has happened, and goes out to find out what's left. Is there anything left? How widespread is this? Is it just his neighborhood? Is it just his state? Is it just his country? We don't know. He knows nothing, and we as readers know nothing. The only person that knew was you. you know, so that journey is unbelievable. My question that I'm leading to is: was that your original idea, that you were going to basically be like, we're just going to travel through this man's eyes and just basically recording what he's seen? Was that your purpose, or did it just kind of work out that way?
I I think I always knew I wanted him to start out alone. I mean, especially, just because I was so much of this book was conceived, in the lead up to the pandemic. And I remember driving home from Maine, um, down I-95 back to Maryland. And I did Maine to Massachusetts, and I did Massachusetts to Maryland, in 2 different days. But Massachusetts to Maryland, I did like late at night, and there was nobody on the road, just except me. And every once in a while, you saw a tractor trailer, but I drove for like 2 hours, and I didn't see anybody, and it was just like the eeriest thing. And I remember, some part of me just wanting to recapture that sensation of just, utter darkness. There's, the street light, the light bulbs on the highway lamps need changing. They're like flickering. The moon is brighter than, my car headlights at this point because it's just so foggy and misty. And I was just like, I could stop here in the middle of the highway, and no one would hit me because no one's coming. um and something just about like that moment made me want to, and I like I said, I'd love the monster apocalypse story. I knew I'd wanted to write something in that vein at some point. um so yeah, I thought, hopefully for him, for the character, he could find someone else along the way. But unfortunately for him, I was pretty set on having him stick out a ton of it alone.
Yeah, oh, that's weird. I mean, the parallel to the pandemic, you don't really think about it at the time, but that, you're very much just reflecting what you were experiencing at the time you were writing it, and that makes it all the more cool, in my estimation.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was absolutely a huge part of it. And I mean, that drive home always sticks with me just because I hate traffic. It's like the bane of my existence. And, I live within 100 miles of Washington, D.C. So I'm not, that's not a wise decision, but I just remember it was just like it was, like walking through your childhood elementary school at night when nobody's there in a
Yeah,
way.
that's
Um, yeah, sorry,
that's a,
go ahead.
I was gonna say, that's a perfect way of putting it. Um, I've mentioned several times, and I think I mentioned it in my review, and then also just in talking with other people about it, that this story is so unique because it's exactly what you think it is, but it's not anything like anything you've ever read before, which is so unique in this day and age because it always seems like somebody's copying King or copying Kuntz or copying, or trying to, or being compared to that. I don't think anyone can read them and say that they've read anything like this before. Did you feel that during the creation process? Were you like this? Were you like, wow, this is really unique. Even yourself. I mean, you've grown up in a literary family, right? Your father,
Yeah.
Richard. He's a huge best-selling author. He buddies around with Stephen King. He's ran Cemetery Dance for decades. So literature. Horror literature. So did you know you were onto something?
Um, Man, that's thank you. That's really nice. Because no, I don't feel like I did. To me, it was, another inspiration for this. I mean, one of my direct inspirations was The Mist, by King, as we've talked about. And that same year of college, junior year, in the fall semester, I wrote an essay for my critical theory class. I had a great professor, Professor Shabangu, and one of my favorite essays I wrote in college. It was about The Mist, the novella and the Frank Darabont film adaptation. And I love the Darabont film adaptation, um, but in the ending, I won't spoil it if you haven't seen it somehow. Um,
You know what? If they haven't seen it by now, shame on them. That's all I
yeah,
got to say.
but I mean, as heart wrenching, as heart pounding and gut wrenching as that ending is, there's still something that's lost in my eyes from the book, because in the book, the mist continues, it perseveres, it doesn't just get burnt down. There's no putting the mist back in the bottle in the portal. um, you've people in Maine and New England, maybe on the East Coast, maybe in all of North America, are going to have to adapt and figure out how to deal with the irrevocable consequences of Project Arrowhead. And not only did that mean the people were going to have to change and adapt, but so were the creatures from the mist, and they were going to have to integrate themselves into Earth's ecosystem, just like any other predator that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, like bears or coyotes or something. It's and so as much as I love the movie and as genius as the twist is, I always just felt like I missed the chance for that like new ecosystem to emerge and for the monsters to get the chance to grow into animals almost. Um, so in my eyes, so much of it was just like, well, what if it's the mist, but the monsters win?
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
and for me, like that was just I had so much fun with that idea that I never cared that much if I thought I wasn't breaking a ton of new ground. Sort of similar to Widow's Point, which my dad and I always call our everything but the kitchen sink book, because it really is just like all of our favorite ghost story tropes and chestnuts just thrown into one big pot in a big old stew and mixed up. Um, we pay a lot of homage in that book. We do a lot of little references and tributes. And we it was like the found footage aspect that kind of managed to make it fresh, which
Yeah.
we didn't really think about either because we were just like, well, we love Blair Witch. we were just like, we're just writing Blair Witch. We didn't even think twice about it in that same sort of way. And with them, my thought was always, I I'll just, my voice is gonna come through, and the characters will do that work for me. Because in my head, yeah, I was just, playing in the monster sandbox like so many other authors before me. Um, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. Well, and you kind of get to do that here as well. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned the Mist. King's version, of course, iconically, there really isn't an ending to it. We leave the people in the truck with the monster walking past. And although your story does, and again, we're giving nothing away. It does have a conclusion, but at the same time, you leave it open ended. And I loved the way you left it open ended. But again, we can't say what that is because it will give too much away. But
I
I
like
was
how you put it in the review. That was you called it like an after credit scene. That was
yeah, well,
awesome.
it kind of was kind of like an MCU stinger. I mean, it really was. That's kind of what
Yeah.
it reminded me of. And you're just like, oh. So that is leading, of course, to the question that you knew had to be coming. Do you see the them universe continuing?
It's so funny because um my editor, uh one of the things he when he was when he after he read the Levidian version, one of the things he said he really liked about it was, everyone's writing something with a sequel these days, and that's what I really like about this. It stands alone. I don't even know how you could write a sequel. And then there was like two beats of silence, and he goes, "Well, unless," and then he got exactly what you're getting. I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, it very easily. It doesn't need to continue, but it
yeah,
could. But it could continue.
and I think that's like that's what I liked. That's what I like about the ending. Like the epilogue is one of my favorite parts for sure. Not just because of the unique voice that is present there, um, who I just love, but also because I in all the iterations of this book and all the different drafts, that is one of the things that changed the most. And I don't remember when I fully settled on when I even included the epilogue. But so much of the ending sense has kind of been, reconsidered and reframed, with the understanding of the epilogue. Because I had it, so when I could go back and rewrite, I knew what was coming next. Um, that's a long way of saying that, but
Yeah, yeah.
but
um,
so yeah, just for me, like I liked that it was so open ended and almost like inviting in the way of an after credit scene, and suggestive, because I want the reader's imagination to run wild there, because so much of the book is asking like what could have been, and for the like last thing it for it to leave you with is what could be, what still could be.
right.
um I think is like, it's one of the things that for me like saves it from being very depressing and
Yeah,
dark.
yeah, it's true. But it doesn't come off as cheap either. It's not Dr. Loomis looking over the banister and Michael's not laying there anymore. It's not like, of course. It's plausible. And again, it could be the end or it doesn't have to be the end. You leave it very open-ended. And that's what, in my estimation, is very difficult to pull off. So kudos to you, my young friend.
Thank you, thank you. I Another one of my college professors, Professor Bryant, he he taught me, we read the greatest books in his class. We did No Country for Old Men, The Road, which, I mean, talk about books that inspired me for this. The Road is as much as The Mist and Bird Box. Oh, and the names before I forget. And one reason I was like, I should make him solo is because I really wanted to do, the thing where I just didn't give him a name, right? So
Yes.
for most of the book, our main character is just the man.
Yes.
Like in Cormac McCarthy's The Road, where it's the man and the boy,
Yep.
and in Josh Mallerman's Bird Box, where Mallory calls the kids boy and girl, just because, for them, even just like giving someone that significance of attachment is just like too painful to like even it just suggests immediately that you could lose them. And I mean, those characters spend the whole books unpacking that, and getting over it. And so one of the ways I did think about, consciously distinguishing myself was, it's not so much, he's not using his name because of, he's afraid to lose it or anything else. It's more just there's no one left to call him by it. And the person his name belonged to is not quite the person he is now. There's two versions of him are slipping away from each other faster and faster as he spends more and more time in the apocalypse. So before I went any further, I was like, I just remembered that, and that was answered like two of your questions in one.
It does. It absolutely does. Um,
Sorry,
I do-
what were we talking about before that tangent?
you know what? I'm not even sure. I even remember. We were just talking about the how impressive I thought the ending was, and I congratulated you on it. But it works perfectly. Um,
Oh, but my that professor Cedric Bryant, I
oh
remember.
yes, yes, that's it.
He had. Oh, we also read As I Lay Dying, which I loved, by Faulkner. Oh gosh, I don't think that's where I read My Antonia, but it's too much for. Maybe it's where I read My Antonia. I don't remember. I can't remember. But he just had a great saying about, an ending. The best endings are both inevitable yet totally unexpected, and they also cause you to like re-question everything that came before.
Right,
Um, and every single time we read a book, he would spend a whole class period, if not like a whole week of classes, just talking about the ending and the mechanics of it, and just like really breaking down like how these people like Faulkner and Willa Cather wrote these incredible books. So I just felt like I had a lot of good tutelage on that front.
yeah. And there's nothing worse than reading a great story and having the landing not stuck.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just horrible. It happens. It happens. It happens to some of my favorite authors. It happens. But
and I'm easy to please too, but it still happens to me sometimes. But
yeah.
I'm like I even on in the classic bad ending. I can't even think of one right now. People say It, but I love the It
Oh no,
ending.
I love the ending. I love the ending of it. I think though, and this is not because it was a bad ending, but the end of Cujo. I mean, I couldn't function for days after
Yeah,
reading the end of Cujo. I mean, that was just such a shock. I mean, the way King wrote that, and I was so attached to those characters, and to just
yeah,
have that horrible ending. And then when the movie came out and they candy coated it, I was even more pissed. Yeah. So,
yeah, yeah. I haven't seen the movie in a while. That was one of the. Actually, no, my dad didn't let me watch that one for a while. I had
yeah.
a lot of horror movies when I was a kid. Not only a horror literature house, but so many movies. Um, I we would do like the tradition was every New Year's Eve when I was a kid, we would get to stay up late, and I would get to like upgrade in the levels of scariness. I would get to like bump from like, Poltergeist up to Event Horizon or something. I don't know. They were
It's
big
weird because
weeks.
we're from kind of two different generations. I'm significantly older than you, so you say something like Poltergeist, and I was growing up with movies like the original Them,
Yeah.
the giant ant movie.
Oh, which I
You know,
mean, I also love. Like I got so many nightmares from Poltergeist, but I always the big creature feature movies never. They sometimes would give me nightmares, but they never like there was like sometimes delightful. Like they're big monsters. They're fun in a way.
right? True.
Um, just in a way that a killer clown hiding under your bed or a menacing tree scratching your window is not
I was
fun.
going to say the tree. I think the tree is what got most of that generation.
My childhood house had and oh the tree fell down in a storm after we moved out, but it had a big tree, um a big like plum tree that didn't have fruit, but it was some kind of plum tree. But it had a branch that went right up to my window, and I had to like close my blinds, and I had the crappiest curtains, so they were like askew, and they would like slowly slide to the side during the night. Oh my god!
That's
And
awesome. Yeah, the plum tree
too
fell out
little to get up
all
there and
gnarly
fix it.
looking, all twisted, gnarly looking branches. I'm assuming.
Honestly, it was a really pretty tree. It was just it was any tree would have done it. It
Yeah,
was honestly a gorgeous tree. Um, but yeah.
that's hilarious. So there is no doubt in my mind now. Again, we've already mentioned that them comes out on August 11th. There is no doubt in my mind that as this comes out, your name is going to start getting tossed around as the new wave of young horror authors, and all that type of stuff. Are you ready to carry that torch? Are you ready to be the next wave of horror literature?
Um, I guess so. Yeah. Thank you.
You don't have much of a choice, Billy.
Yeah. I I am. I just feel really lucky that I've gotten the chances I've gotten, and that especially that I've gotten to do so much of it with my dad, who's not only my old man, but like he's been my mentor and my best friend through, and my co-writer throughout so much of this. That it there's some days where it doesn't really feel too different than when I go into the cemetery dance warehouse in Forest Hill, and just start packing boxes of the latest Bentley Little book for people, and shipping them out or whatever is on our warehouse desk at the moment. You know, some days it just kind of all feels like the same job, which is
Yep.
awesome, but it also makes moments like that surreal, where it's just like, oh yeah, I've got to go on like a book tour next month.
Oh, that's interesting. You bring that up. I noticed on the publisher's page there is that. How many dates and where are you going to be? You going to be mainly on the East Coast?
Yeah, mainly around Maryland for now. I'll be at my hometown Barnes and Noble release day, August 11th, and then that night I'm doing an online event with Poison Pen in Arizona. We went down there for my dad and I for Widow's Point, which was a lot of fun. I've never been to Arizona before. It was unbelievably hot. Um,
As I say,
Not
it's
as bad
very.
as this summer, but it was also, when did Widow's Point come out? October or something?
Yeah, it was fall of last year. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was still like 100 degrees there. I'll be in,
no reason for it to be that hot ever.
yeah, um, but I'll be in Pennsylvania. There's the Carroll County Book Festival in Maryland, the Bel Air Book Festival in my hometown. I'll be heading up to Michigan at some point. I've still got to get a date for that.
No Ohio though. I noticed. What's avoiding my home state? What's
I
that
think
all about?
I have.
You have to go through Ohio to get to Michigan for
I
Christ's
think
sake.
we're doing a Barnes and Noble in Ohio, but
I'll keep an eye out for it.
I think that one might be um, after in October because um, then we can double dip with the Boogeyman 3.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that would
Um,
make perfect sense.
and then a lot of Virginia, Western Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware. I'll be at Browse About Books in Rehoboth Beach there. I just There's another indie bookstore in my hometown, Oddbird Bookshop, that just opened up pretty recently. They're doing a festival, or like a 1-day festival in August. I can't remember. My brain is just like a maze of dates right now.
Yeah, I can't even. I really honestly can't even imagine. It's just got
But
to be a whirlwind.
yeah, you can. It's on my social media, and also on the Gallery Books Them landing page. So if check me out on Instagram at WH Chizmar, or Facebook Billy Chizmar, you can usually find we my publicist had some really really nice graphics made for it, so I've been posting that, and then I've got to make a new one because I just keep adding and adding stuff.
So
It's a good
are
problem
we
to have.
venturing into this like becoming your full time gig? Are you going to become W.H. Chismar horror author? Is this where we're
Yeah,
heading?
I mean, most of what I do otherwise is coaching middle school or high school lacrosse, and working at the cemetery dance warehouses, or mowing lawns when if someone needs me. Um, but yeah, and I've been on the Patreon grind for a while, and with the novels now, I haven't even had time for the short stories. I've just been so absorbed. So
Sure, sure, makes sense.
and I'm working on a second book for Gallery right now as well, with the same editor and team. So yeah, I'm hoping these next two are, I think them's gonna go well. Um,
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I agree 100%. I think folks are going to really latch onto this, and things are going to really take off for you.
Thank you. And like I said, I'm working on the next one right now. Not a sequel, standalone, but I think it explores some similar themes, in almost like an inverse scenario, um, without giving too much away.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say keep some under wraps there, Billy. We don't need to get too far away. We got to have something to talk about next time we talk.
Yeah,
And you mentioned before we wrap this up, I just want to touch briefly on it. We talked about a widow's point and writing with your father.
yeah.
Was that project always a collaboration, or was this something that you or he started separately? And at one point, you were like, "Hey, why don't you write a chapter? I'm stuck here. Want to help me out? Where's this go from here?" Or was it always, "Hey, buddy, let's write something together"?
No, that was actually really cool because it was not only a collaboration from its inception, but it wasn't even either of our ideas. Um, it was actually so when I was in high school, my dad surprised me for, like, I think it was my 16th birthday or something. And this guy asked him, Mark Parker, who runs Galleon Publications. He asked him for an anthology story for Dead Harvest. It was called, big, thick paperback anthology, which with a bunch of great short stories. Um, and my dad submitted a story, and he was like, he had a story that I had written either just on my own or for like an English class or something that he really liked. And so he took my name off it and sent it to Mark, and he was like, "Kid that works for me wrote this, and I really liked it. I wanted to send it to you. What do you think?" And he might have, I think he was lying to me, but he might have said that he told Mark it was his story. And then he was like, "Psych, it's actually my son's."
Yeah.
Um, but he might have just been lying to me to make me feel good when he said that. I have no proof. I haven't asked Mark to corroborate. Um, but anyway, so that's how my first ever short story ended up getting published in an anthology. I got paid like $20. It was like probably 1,000 words, if that. And fast forward like 2 years, and Mark wrote my dad, and he was like, I want the first collaboration from you two. I got Billy's first ever story, so I want your guys' first collaboration because I feel like you guys are going to do it at some point. And, other than like when I was like a little kid and he would tell me bedtime stories, and I would be like, actually, I think the story would be a little cooler if the prince, did this and the princess actually had to step up and do this. Don't you think that would be a little more interesting for their character growth, Dad? And I was like 6 or something. Um, yeah, like I said, I had really good teachers at home and at school. But yeah, so he wanted our first collaboration for Deep Fathoms, or Deadly Fathoms rather, and it was like this nautical themed horror anthology. And we were both like pumped to write together. And I had just done college tours up in Maine and all of New England, and seen all like the big old lighthouses in Maine. And I mean, you got lighthouses on the Great Lakes.
Yeah, yeah. Nothing like the ones you have on the seaboard, though. I don't think.
Well, and like ours, even ours on like the Chesapeake Bay are little and tiny, I feel like, compared to the ones on the Great Lakes. And
Yeah,
the ones in the Great Lakes compared to the ones on like the big rocky Maine coast, like, oh my, the ones in Maine are just amazing. I remember, like, we were in the car all the time, so any chance we had to get out of the car and stretch our legs, we took. So anytime I saw a lighthouse, I was just like, let's stop here, take a look at this. This is
and there's just something
different colors
inherently
in the
creepy
water.
about a lighthouse, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I don't know what it is, but there just is.
And so we wrote the short story version, and then I went to college up in Maine, Waterville, not on the coast. But we just kept thinking about our haunted lighthouse story, which was, 20,000 words in the anthology, maybe a little less. And then we added like 10,000 or 20,000 more onto it for the novella version because we just couldn't stop thinking about it. We would just like text back and forth like, damn, dude, we should have had Thomas do this and this and this, and we should have had the lighthouse mess with him this way. And my dad was like, he should have found a diary from a little girl that lived there 100 years ago. And he was so mad that he thought about the diary, like, a few months late,
An
that,
afterthought, huh?
yeah, and we couldn't help ourselves. And then it just that was 2017 and 2018, I think, the anthology and the um well, maybe that's, I don't know the years.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
know it had been. I know it had been around for a while because your father would offer up, like chapbooks of it and stuff. If you, ordered certain things, you were able to get like little chapbooks of Widow's Point.
mhm,
So, um, but for me, it was one of the best of the year last year. It's
thank
been
you.
weird. It's been the last few years have actually, especially around Halloween time, have been kind of Chizmar ish. Your dad's been releasing the Boogeyman books, and then you guys did the Widow's Point book, and I think Memorials was another one that kind of came out that around that
Yeah,
time of year. So it's
yeah,
been one of those things where you guys have kind of taken over the Halloween season.
yeah, and he's been solidly yeah, he's been solidly September through November for, like, ever since the first Boogeyman book, I think. I can't remember when the Gwendy books came out.
Yeah, I don't remember either. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just it's just been fascinating watching it go out. It had nothing to do with you, but I'm super stoked for the last Boogeyman book coming up. I
Yeah,
can't
me
wait.
too.
Yeah, I
I
can't wait. You haven't read it yet? You've had to have read it already.
Yeah, yeah, oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we're, like, the first to read each other's things always, and the Boogeyman books, I have, like, a particular heavy hand in just because of all, like, the pictures and extra material.
Yeah.
I do it, which is just, like, so much fun to work on. And half
You're
the time in the book, when you see a picture of someone with the mask on, half the time it's me. Or or it's like, or if I'm not under the mask, I'm usually taking the picture. Um, it was more so for the last two because they're present day, so there was like a lot less like dressing we had to do on the sets and stuff. Whereas like for book one, we like got our buddies who run a film company and we're like, do you guys know wardrobe people who can give us like old timey cop uniforms for fake photographs?
It's become a whole production.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, we had um one of the funniest. I think this was for the first book. We had like 20 people all organized to come over to our house, and they were going to walk in the big overgrown backyard. And we've got like this tree orchard that like the county used to cut, and it was like, we can't, no one can develop on it. um, but you just get like a, I don't know, something for letting it exist, or whoever cut the deal with the county when they lived here. Um, but it was, I don't exactly know how it works because they've stopped cutting it now, which is fine with me because now it's like a lush meadow that foxes and deer are in all the
Yeah,
time.
nice.
Um, but it used to be like the county would send like 2 zero turns to come in and shred it. So literally, we were like, okay, we're gonna get all of these people, 20 people, and get them like to search this big overgrown field in like a big line, like an old school, like the whole town's going out to search the woods kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what the first Boogeyman book is. The whole town searching the woods. And literally that morning I walked outside and I was like, the mowers are here. Oh no.
Of
um,
course they are.
and it worked out fine. Like I don't remember if we had a photographer that day, a legit photographer, or if I took the pictures. Um, but they turned out fine. They still looked good. People. He's just, with those books, they're so much fun because he's so set on making people like think it can be real.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially the first one, but it, it's it's awesome just how like that stubbornness has translated into the ridiculousness of the second and third books. I mean, like the books have like jumped the shark, but in a way that I just find like delightful because they just still stay true to like, yeah, like they jump the shark, like you said, the same way a Halloween movie does. Um,
Yeah, yeah, I've enjoyed them thoroughly. I mean, I really have. They sent me a galley of the last one, but I'm purposely kind of saved. I haven't read it yet. I want it to one of those things where I got like 2 days and I can that's all I can read. I'm not going to get distracted.
that's awesome.
So yeah, so I haven't cracked it open yet, but it's sitting. As a matter of fact, it's sitting here staring at me as we speak. So
Well, if you have any questions about any of the pictures and their origins, let me know. I'll try to remember. Because I
you
mean,
give me the
and
scoop, huh?
yeah, then that's part of like, they, as it gets more, the story gets bigger and bigger and more complex. The task of maintaining that realism becomes all the more difficult. So it's just there's a ton of fun working on those books.
That's great. Well, we've gotten off the track though of them. We want to make sure we end talking about them. I think we've hit all the high points on it. We know it's coming out on August 11th. You can pre-order it now. When I post this interview up on the site, I'll also post links to your site and to where people can order this. Is there
Awesome.
anything else that you want people to know about them that we maybe didn't touch on? I think we did a pretty good job of being very complete without ruining anything.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. Any more questions? Any more burning questions, or?
No, again, I think we've covered everything that people need to know. Anything else I have to ask would should probably be done privately because it would likely ruin the read for people, and I'm being very cautious not to do that because this is one that could very easily you could spoil for someone if you're not careful what you say or how
Yeah,
you say it.
and
So
I'm bad about it. I'm yeah, and that's like, going back to my dad, one of the cool things about working with him on Widow's Point is that, like, we can just pass each other in the living room or in the kitchen and be like, hey, what do you think Jeff would do if he heard like a little kid screaming in the forest? And he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Meanwhile, my like uncle and like his golf buddies who will be over for like just to cool down in the AC after the round, or like my brother and his friends will be there, and they'll all look at us like, what the hell are they talking
What the hell are
about?
they talking about?
And my mom's just like, they're writing a book, don't worry about it. So I'm like always just so mentally immersed in whatever I'm working on, or even just whatever I'm talking about. I feel like that I forget.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It'd be very easy to slip spoilers in, and I'm being very cautious not to allow that to happen, quite frankly. But I do really appreciate you taking so much time with me. We've been talking almost an hour. So
Really?
yeah. So yeah,
Already?
we're
That was
like
fast.
50. We're like a 51 minutes. So I think we're
Awesome.
going to wrap this up because we don't want to lose the people with short attention span theater.
Yeah.
That's very much a thing now as well. So, but I can't thank you enough for your time,
Well,
and
they're
thank you so
readers. They're
much for your
fine.
thank you for taking all the time today, and thank you for coming up with such a great story. Hopefully, as your career grows, we'll continue to talk to one another and you know track your progression as things go along.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me and all the kind words. And I hope when I make it to Ohio, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you better. You and your dad both. You better
Yeah.
let me know when you're somewhere clear. We were in Pennsylvania just this past week, my wife and I.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Where at?
yeah. We were just over in the Pittsburgh area. I'm good
Nice.
friends with Tom Savini, so we went over and spent
Oh,
some time with
nice.
him and toured the Monroeville Mall and did all that kind of stuff. Did the George Romero type thing.
Yeah.
So it was really nice. But really, honestly, in Maryland where you guys are at, you're not really that far from me, quite frankly. You're really not.
No, and I'm only 3 hours from Pittsburgh. There's a really nice little ski mountain not too far from there. I'll do just like a day trip up to sometimes in the winter if I
Yeah.
if I've got like the 3 day pass and I've got an extra day on it or something. Which one is it? Like, oh, Seven Springs. Yeah, duh.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
a famous one. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one that skiers know and love.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I like I said, I was in Maine for college, so when our lacrosse coach would always yell at us because he was like, "You guys are going to get hurt. You guys are idiots." But in the winter, me and my buddies would wake up at like 6 a.m. and drive to the mountains in Maine and ski, and just I miss it. So this winter we got we got dumped on a few times.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. There was a few feet when I was up at Seven Springs.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, Billy. It's been amazing.
Yeah,
Them out everywhere, online and bookstores. I think you're
audiobook, ebook.
everywhere. It's going to be everywhere. August 11th. So make sure if you haven't pre-ordered, go on the 11th and pick it up. It's a great read.
Thank you so much for having me, Dave.
Thank you. Have a great night, Billy.
You too.
Gruesome Magazine.